At first, the aliens mocked our technological advancements. After learning it took only a few centuries to move from horse carriages to spaceships, they suddenly became more friendly. Already the war effort was nearing its completion, as the united alien races had won victory after victory over the invaders that had forced them into their exile. All that remained were the ice planets, the planets on the very edges of the galaxy that the aliens considered the least threat of all, as their technological prowess was pitiful at best. Still, they would waste no time subduing them, as their thirst for vengeance would not be quenched until the final human had been exterminated. Fortunately, the planets the final humans resided on had little strategic or natural value, so the aliens did not have to hold back their weapons so as to preserve them. Instead, they could destroy them entirely, and with that their revenge would be complete. The aliens sent their dreadnoughts to the ice planets, mechanical beasts of unfathomable proportions. Each was designed to destroy a planet whole, a surgical beam that makes material implode on itself, erasing it from existence. Each came equipped with a ballistic shield that rendered it practically impenetrable, save for advanced weaponry that only the aliens possessed. The humans had little time to prepare, the few refugees that had fled to their planets providing what little intel they knew. There seemed no escape, no hope for tactical retreat. Only the dark unknown remained beyond their planets, at the very edge of their galaxy, and with that surely death. The humans all flocked towards a single planet, each in the small, rudimentary spacecraft of their home planets, designed to navigate and drill through the ice plains native to their planets. They all gathered there perhaps as a concentration of force, or final last stand. The dreadnought arrived at the planet, as did the other dreadnoughts at their respective planets. It loomed over it, impossibly large, an omen of death, and began to charge its weapon. All at once, thousands of ships emerged from the planet. They coalesced on the dreadnought in a haphazard fashion, and it fired on them, their small size and nimble speed proving effective in dodging the attacks. And yet, not a single ship fired on the dreadnought, perhaps realizing futility in their actions. None could hope to penetrate the shield. A few then flew directly at the dreadnought, full speed, in something akin to a kamikaze attack, and were immediately destroyed by the ballistic shield. It was an intelligent enough system to treat any object above a certain speed of threat, and would immediately activate and destroy it. But then, unflinchingly and all at once, the ships converged on the dreadnought, forming a sphere around it, using the wreckage of their fallen ships as a guide. Just as they came to the outer limit of the shield, they slowed to a crawl. They moved through the invisible barrier without detection or destruction, all the while the ship's weapons fired on them, massacring them in devastating numbers. But they were simply too much, too many. Crossing the shield's barrier, they descended on a dreadnought like ants onto a corpse, burrowing into its hull with startling efficiency. The ships were designed to drill into the hardest materials their galaxy had to offer, and made short work of the dreadnought's outer core. The ship breached. The humans erupted from their ships, slaughtering the dreadnought's inhabitants without hesitation. While the alien technology was unmatched, their fighting prowess was poor at best, and perhaps through hubris or simple ineptitude, none were sufficiently equipped for a breach. The humans made short work of them and soon found the ship's DNA security protocols easy to bypass with the detached limbs of their enemies. The few aliens that managed to flee in escape pods were gunned down mercilessly, as a single escaped soul would undoubtedly compromise their mission. The humans had won their first victory since the arrival of the invaders, but no victory is without its cost. Despite the fact that they had commandeered the dreadnought, they still had to carry out the ship's mission. If their plan had any chance of succeeding at all, they would need to destroy their own planet, so as to not arouse suspicion. They had loaded their own spacecraft with the best and strongest humanity still had to offer, which invariably meant that the weak, the old, and even the children still remained on their home planet. Victory will not come without sacrifice, and there was no sacrifice more severe than this. The humans charged the dreadnought as they sealed the hundreds of breaches in the hull, melting down their lodged spacecraft to form molten patchwork. The ship not only needed to be flight-worthy, but seemingly intact. They watched as their home planet imploded on itself, and in that moment only, they allowed the anguish and pain to wash over themselves. They were now the last of their race, and that knowledge only served to harden their will. The humans messaged the commander, reporting the planetary extermination a success, and then fired up the interstellar thrusters. They then set forth onto the alien capital and on to the next phase of their improbable, irrevocable mission. With all the reports of the dreadnoughts declared a resounding success, the alien races rejoiced. After centuries of exile, of constant wartime production, their goal had been completed, and with an efficiency and ease none could have guessed. The existential threat of the humans had forced them to unite and produce in fanatical fervor, but in the end, the humans themselves had been their own downfall. Now the last trace of their species had been exterminated, and soon even their architecture and history would be erased from existence. The aliens had built weapons of terrible destruction, capable of destroying entire solar systems with a single missile, and had been fully prepared to use them. They expected the humans to possess weaponry of unparalleled proportion, but they had no such thing. The aliens took back their planets without significant damage to any of them, and already the alien races were colonizing their original home planets, each race returning to where their species had originally came from, to restore their civilization to greatness. This left a problem that the aliens had not foreseen. With the last human exterminated, the existential threat vanquished, there came a sudden power vacuum. That which had united the races was now gone, and yet their deadly armaments remained. Truthfully, the aliens had not expected to win so easily, to find themselves without a foe so quickly. Weapons and armaments capable of immense destruction remained in the possession of every race, and the semblance of conflict was already bubbling to the fore. After all, they now possessed enough firepower to destroy the entire galaxy thrice over, and diplomacy was surely needed, as they could not let their unification fall apart so quickly after their victory. With the imminent arrival of the dreadnoughts at the alien capital, diplomats were already calling for their decommission, for de-escalation of warfare. There was intense debate as to what should be done with the dreadnoughts and armaments at large, with a growing call to repurpose all weaponry, as they were now sure and truly certain, as the humans had not been, that no external threat remained. The alien races were wise enough to know that warfare was forever a possibility, if the ability to wage it remained, and they now had an opportunity to ensure that galactic peace never crumbled. They had worked for centuries to make this a reality, and they were truly on the cusp of achieving it. And yet, a catastrophe was brewing. All across the galaxy, radars were picking up readings of what seemed to be missiles heading directly toward their solar systems, each small and subtle enough so as to hide from detection, each seemingly timed to arrive at the same time. There seemed to be only one likely option. One of the alien races was attempting to wipe out every other race in the aftermath of the war, to declare themselves victors and remove any threat before it arose. Each planet scrambled to find out the source, the reason, but soon communications went from frantic to cut off completely, as the military quickly realized that no other race could be trusted. The pacifists and cautious among them urged the leaders to not react, citing radar malfunction or deception, but the commanders knew they could not wait. Hesitation would only result in their deaths without retaliation, and they had spent centuries with only one goal: revenge. They would not die without fulfilling it, or their centuries of exile would be for naught. There was only one protocol in this situation, unthinkable in proportion and yet obvious in design: mutually assured destruction. The commanders ordered the retaliation, launching missiles capable of obliterating entire solar systems to each capital planet. They then hurried home to their families to comfort them in their final hours. The galaxy was doomed, and while the general populace went mad, the leaders of each nation scrambled in their interstellar ships towards the only respite from the devastation that was about to occur, the wormhole in the center of the galaxy, though one ship had already passed through it and was waiting for them on the other end.